Ooh, before I forget, let me make sure I have these links handy. Before we start, I have a question. Pick a number between 1 and 2, Jared.
Pick a number between 1 and 2. What the fuck?
There's only 2 choices, 1 or 2.
1.
All right. Thank you. All right. That's all I needed.
Oh, cool. Sorry, I got distracted. I closed all my rings today, and that makes me very happy. Thanks, Apple Watch, for letting me know I'm not lazy today. Awesome.
Attaboy.
Good for you.
Yeah. We good? You hit the button. Let's ride.
Yep.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is former NASCAR driver Bill Lester.
Bob Cockers.
I'm NASCAR driver Natalie Decker.
NASCAR's Chief Hype Officer Mamba Smith.
And you're listening to Victory Lane.
Victory Lane.
Victory Lane.
Victory Lane Vibe.
Let's go.
376, Antron Brown is the top fuel champion.
Just praying for it. There it is. Raja Caruth wins it at Las Vegas. First career win, gets it done.
You stayed in the game, and it was just one step, one punch, one round at a time, and my guys had me a great stop, and we just executed. So there's more to come for sure.
His final time through 3 and 4. He's gonna do it. Bubba Wallace wins at Kansas.
What they gonna say now, baby? Let's go!
He is the man who raises the bar, who raises the stats, who takes things to stratospheric levels, and he's only got 3 corners now. He can see the crowd standing and giving him that round of applause. 8 times we've said it before. Here's a 9th for you. Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix. What a victory! Hamilton is back.
Good.
Welcome to another episode of Victory Lane Vibes. We are your hostesses with your mostesses with the mostesses. Damn.
Already slipping.
Sorry. I'm wearing my Commanders jersey, and if you're a football fan, don't
also,
like them.
In your defense,
constant depression and manic episodes.
In your defense, this is probably the latest we've started in like a year.
Yeah,
sorry.
We've gotten away from this.
I wasn't gonna name names, but you said you want to put it.
Y'all were about to get a fireside Club Shay Shay version of Victory Lane Vibes, but we decided to wait for Peyton.
We did.
There's your first mistake.
There's the second and third, honestly, but we here, we live. It's cool. It's post Atlanta. Hey, I know we got a long show to get into, but they better not ever race this racetrack in the daytime ever again. I hated this race today. I hated it. I hated it. It was a parade. Nobody did anything. Nobody's cars handled well. I really want them to put the regular package on this racetrack just once, and please let us cook. NASCAR, please give me the iRacing game so I can have the choice between the Super Speedway package and the 1.5 miles, because I think the 1.5 miles would actually do damage here at this track, man. I just Anywho, whatever. So before we get into the races, let's talk charters. So there were some loud rumors that NASCAR pulled up Russian Mafia style and was like, yo, sign it or else. And most of the teams signed the charter agreement outside of the teams who are looking to expand their footprint next year. 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. With that, there's some news that have come out that we can't speak on. There's some news that got leaked that can't be spoke on, and there's some contracts that can't be signed because all the teams haven't agreed to the charter. So, if y'all listen to our episode with Bob, he said it would might be September 1st, might be December 31st. We'll see what happens. Listening to the interviews from Denny and from the Front Row Motorsports leadership, they're kind of good where they are. They ain't signing nothing until the figures get changed. So I wanted to ask y'all, what you think? We gonna see some Toyotas after Daytona next year. Is 2311 coming back to the track after the 25 500? What's up? What's good?
Man, oh man, I mean, this is so messy. That's the one word that keeps coming is messy, and I totally can believe if you told me NASCAR showed up at somebody's hauler at 1:59 a.m. and was like, bam, 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 bam. Hey yo, wake up. Like I could totally believe that conversation happened. I think the hardest part for me as a fan or someone listening is like I just don't know what the terms are. Like obviously we know it's about money, right? Usually it comes down to rent money and like influence and say, and that seems to be the big things. But I just want to know how far off was the offer from what the counter offer was. So like the word that we keep hearing is like a fair offer from Denny and from 2311 spokespeople. So I just want to know like what those numbers are to start with. Because that would totally shape my thoughts and opinions. If it's like 2%, sure. If it's 30%, like that's completely different. Also, there's this little nugget that came out over the weekend about how NASCAR is holding back for charters, and it has the opportunity to give them to a new OEM and or just start up their own team. And I mean, if there's ever a sport where you can have your finger on the scale more than NASCAR, I don't know what it is. Just because of the nature of auto racing. I mean, when you're dealing with, 2 degrees of sheet metal being bent, making a big difference, right? When you're dealing in hundredths of a second, it's real easy for things to get overlooked. And so I really am a little leery about that. I just want to throw this out there. Like, I say this with no insider information, but the 4th OEM ain't coming, y'all. Like, it ain't coming. So we gotta let that dream die, because they've been using this excuse for about 15 years now, and ain't nobody come in yet. So as soon as I hear that was a reason, I'm like, oh no, the fix is in. Like, I smell BS whenever that gets brought up. I mean, it is the definition of the Lucy pulling the football from Charlie Brown when it comes to this new OEM. So that's a concern. I really want to know more details, right? Like I feel like there's so much context that we're missing that could totally shape my perception and opinions on it. But it is concerning. I am very concerned. I don't know what they're gonna do. My gut, this is again with no insider info or anything, but I feel like this is gonna end up in a courtroom somewhere in January. Like I think the way that 2311 has been curating these statements the last couple weeks, I just feel like this is gonna get into some kind of either antitrust or anti-competitiveness. I don't know. Like I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how all that works, but I just feel like somebody gonna get sued. And they're at the point where they're just like, hey, look, it's going to happen. So we're just going to hold our ducks in a row and try and get a judge to help us get what we want or get us closer to what we want. But it's not good. Anytime you're talking about this and you're not talking about the on-track product, it's a problem. So I'm a bit nervous. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm a bit nervous.
Overall, man, there's just so much mystery to all of this. And this is sort of what you have with NASCAR being a family business, that there's so much clandestine things that happen. And what still shocks me is the fact that Penske, Gibbs, and Hendrick capitulated. They all folded or accepted the terms that NASCAR was offering, which makes me wonder, one, did they offer more favorable terms? So these were all the terms the same across the board. I'd imagine they would be, but what doesn't surprise me is that 2311 was the team that decided, no, we're not taking this offer. You've got people in Polk, I believe Curtis Polk, Michael Jordan's right-hand man, who has obviously been used to dealing with sports leagues, dealing with unions, used to dealing with big time negotiations. Not that folks like Penske obviously runs a ton of businesses haven't, but coming directly from a different world of sports in the very recent past, it's no surprise 2311 But yeah, there's just so many odd aspects. It looks like that the other Cup teams, everyone's getting a larger cut. I think I saw 35 to 40% of the income off it, but apparently they're going to be limited in other ways to develop income, such as like driver appearances, things like that. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and the thing is given the stage of negotiations that they are at, we can't get a whole lot of details from the folks at Front Row or 2311 because obviously these are points of contention that they don't want to sort of give out further detail. I don't know if we're going to get a resolution. Like someone else said, hey, there's might be a chance that they just line up at Daytona and then they kind of call it good for the year, or they can also compete without a charter. There is still that possibility. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how long this gets drug on. Obviously, their drivers who are one of them who's out of contract for next year, just waiting on this for a renewal. So, yeah, a lot. This was the most surprising thing to happen. I'm not surprised, at least by one of the two teams. I am surprised by Front Row, but as Garrett mentioned, they do have plans to expand. So I imagine it probably has a lot to do with the asking price of that third charter or the charter that they had acquired. So, yeah, until they can at least get through whatever negotiations, it'll be interesting to see if after that point they decide to talk more about what the holdups were. But I imagine it's a bit of everything. And the thing is, too, could they actually negotiate for a sweeter deal than the other teams? I mean, I guess they can because they've not signed. So that'll be interesting, too, if 2311 somehow ends up with the best negotiated deal out of this. So, yeah.
It's and I read something. I told myself I was going to bring it up on the show. So out of everybody who I guess held out, I have probably the most respect for the Front Row ownership. Just because for a while, Front Row was like one of them lowly teams, like one of them back market teams. Like we don't have no big sponsors. It's just him out of pocket. He's probably put more millions in this sport single-handedly just to keep his team afloat, probably than anybody else in the garage. I'd say just because they didn't have the instant success like a Hendrick or the long-term success, like a Gibbs. So they literally started from the bottom and they're just getting their stride. I mean, just this year they signed a Tier 1 Ford deal that essentially closed the doors for Stuart Haas. So clearly the time has come where they believe in their product, they believe in their brand, and they believe in their stake in the sport, and they want to make sure they get theirs. Since they've been back markers for such a long time. So for me, this is probably the most interesting storyline going into the end of the season, just because I know, like, for us as a show, like, we didn't do the 26-week recap. We didn't talk about the playoff favorites. We didn't do any of that sort of stuff last week, just because we were already hearing the rumors and the things, and we just wanted to let it air out before we spoke on it. So this is probably taking my attention away from the playoffs.
Which is the one thing they didn't want.
Right. Yeah, this is what they didn't want. But I'm captivated, honestly, truthfully. This is I've never seen a sports league in the middle of the season just like mishandle what makes your sport, what it is. Like, can you imagine the NFL and all the franchises having this out and it's like wild card weekend? What? What?
Well, that's what happens though when you have this huge entity, this whole sport, and it's only run by a family for 50, 70, 100 years, or however long it's been, right? Like in the NFL, the commissioner is beholden and an employee of the league, and he's beholden to the owners, right? The team owners. So like he's gonna do everything in his power to make sure the team owners are happy because they're the ones that pay his job and keep him with that 7-8 figure check and salary, whatever he's got. So here it's completely different. And the attitude has always been from NASCAR, as long as it exists, is that no team is bigger than the show. You show up, you play in our sandbox, and you play by our rules. And if you don't like it, you can leave. And, like I've said on here before, I don't think that really fits in today's model. I think NASCAR, as we talked about with Chase Elliott and like Bubba Wallace and some of these other guys, it is a driver-driven league where people care about the individual drivers just as much as they care about the brand of NASCAR as a whole, if not more so. As we saw when Chase was out, right? Ratings dropped significantly week to week. So I personally don't agree with it. I do think, if teams are not making a profit, right, and the league is making big money hands over fist from revenue from all the various streams they have, and that to me that's a problem, because I guarantee you if they show up there with a bunch of generic teams and a bunch of drivers that we don't recognize, you would fold real quick. It wouldn't last 6 weeks if the HMSs and the Penske's and the Gibbs and the 2311s like didn't show up. Like, you're not going to have people for a long time. And so I'm just very interested, like I said, to find out some of what these terms are. Like, obviously, like, we don't have any decision-making power in it, but I just want to get an understanding of like what is agreed upon, what was proposed, because every word of communication we've gotten from the teams is that the deals they've been offered were putrid and that they were just awful, and that there's been no real sense of negotiation, that NASCAR was trying to negotiate with these teams individually rather than as a collective, just to try and slowly wither them down one by one. And I have the feeling that if we have to do that, then you probably aren't making a very good offer when you can't talk to the group as a collective. So the strategy kind of tells the values of the partners involved based on how they're just acting. So they're moving real shady, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess, at this point. I don't know what they can do moving forward, but I'm interested to see how it gets resolved, because like some of these people on Twitter who love to bootleg for NASCAR, and they think, oh, good on NASCAR, whatever. Like, you realize these are the same people that are making the decisions that you hate about the sport. Like, any decision you hate about NASCAR, these are the people that are directly responsible for it, and they have unchecked power. So I would just be a bit hesitant to support, the man, the decision makers at the top, when they do not have a great reputation. I mean, I don't think any sports league has a great one, but NASCAR is especially, if you listen to this show, they do not have a great reputation in my eyes when it comes to the decisions they make in the short term and in the day-to-day, and then over the long-term health and growth of the sport. So I think you should watch where you hitch your horses to. But I think some of that's just Denny bashing. Like, they just hate Denny, and they just will. He could be trying to give them money. They wouldn't take it because they hate him so much.
When you all talk about some of this stuff, it does make me wonder. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for when Michael Jordan received the proposal from Denny Hamlin, and then Michael had to sort of make it make sense to his team of people who obviously help, or I guess, give him feedback on what the best things to do with his money. Because I don't see why on earth anyone would actually go and start a new NASCAR team unless they just strictly love motor racing. I mean, that's the only real reason. This is, if you lose the charter, where essentially you've got a golden ticket that assures you have no freaking value out of your franchise or team. And the fact that all of these teams have to rely on sponsorship, which that is fleeting. That is super fleeting, because the chances of you maintaining or keeping a sponsor can oftentimes just be down to someone high up in the company that really likes racing, and that's it. And that's the difference between you turning a meager profit or going completely under. So I just don't see where the money making venture is. As someone who just sat down and watched 2.5 hours of Titans football, I can tell you they're not having to spend big money to get a big return on profit. Same thing with Cincinnati Reds. They're not spending big money, and they're still getting a big return on profit because of the way the league is structured. I just can't imagine why someone would get into this. And then the fact that their NASCAR yields such leverage over these teams. I would just love whoever was able to convince, and maybe if Michael Jordan wants something, he can just have it. But certainly Curtis Polk had to explain, hey, this is not a money-making venture, unless maybe they thought they could come in and really try to make changes to the way NASCAR operates. But yeah, if and they've said it for so long over at 2311. They don't love the idea that all this stuff is sponsorship based, and that's just not a good business structure, especially as your sport loses viewers or it's plateaued in viewership and in track attendance. So yeah, if 2311 is able to get some of the things they're wanting out of this, it's going to be brilliant. What'll be interesting is essentially, will they have to hold out, or essentially will things get worse and worse, and eventually they have to make some really harsh decisions in terms of what they're going to do. So the NASCAR obviously has the ball in their, or not necessarily the ball in their court. They've got all the leverage because they've essentially got all but 2 teams ready to roll. The sport will be fine without 2311 because they were fine without it 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But yeah, it's going to be one of those situations where until we get more information, we're not going to know. But yeah, it might not be a bad opportunity for them to win a championship and then go off into the sunset. Be a heck of a story.
Man, wouldn't it?
That'd be wild. Well, Peyton, the saying, right? If you want to get a small fortune in motorsports, start with a big fortune. So, like,
absolutely, Michael
that's
Waltrip
always
teaches
the
us.
saying. Yeah. So, like, I have a feeling like they understand. Again, I'm guessing here, but I think they understand. Like, this isn't going to necessarily be a big money venture. I think a lot of this is, like you mentioned, like Michael's just love of the game. To steal that reference, but I think there is just a lot of comfort in a lot of those teams' leaderships when it comes to the way things operate. Because if you're Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs, like this has been the way, and Penske too. Like this is the way it's been forever. We get this slice. We're competitive every year. Like we've accepted it, right? It's kind of like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a metaphor. It's kind of like the pet that you have that like never leaves the house. They're like, okay, this is where I live in. This is my world. Like I can accept it. And then here comes, these other teams that and leadership groups that have these outside perspectives of how they want to try to litigate it. And it's like, no, the world is much bigger. Like there's much more option you have outside of these structures that you have in place. Like you can get more revenue. Like it's not a bad thing to negotiate and to try to push back against these terms. You don't have to just take it just because they are the sanctioning body. Like that's the impression I get, right? It's like we can get better. Like we can get a better deal. Like we can get some more of a better split or whatever. It's because that's the thing I think it all comes down to really is money. And like we know the money's there, right? Like they make so much money. Like, how many $1 million is it off of TV? Merch, track sales, parking. I mean, tickets. There's no part of the sport that isn't guzzling money up, and it's just like if they're a bit more generous about the splits, I have a feeling a lot of these conversations would go away because that's what it seems like it really comes down to. Like the cost is just getting higher and higher, and all of the things that they could do to save money, especially with this car, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, don't matter anymore because we have a new car and it's not as cheap as it was promised. And it's still the famous quote from Denny is, we're wrecking Lamborghinis or racing Lamborghinis out there. So it's still just as expensive as it was 5 years ago. But now, you had to buy all new equipment for it, get retrained on it, all of those things. So I just feel like most things, it comes down to corporate greed, which is one thing I hate most in this world. And I hate that it's found its way into my motorsports, but that's the reality. That's the world we live in 2024.
All I'm saying is you don't accept a new job without negotiating your salary before you start. If you're at the end of a contract and you're trying to re-up and sign the next one for the next 6 years of your job to start, you be kind of silly not to negotiate your salary. And with that, let's move to the race.
What a dour note to end it off.
I'm just saying, you will send that off letter without asking questions. Xfinity race yesterday. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. The timeline was on fire. The group chat was on fire. Everybody was throwing tomatoes, stones, bricks, you name it. Austin Hill ties Dale Earnhardt Jr. for the most wins on super speedway races as he wins the Xfinity race yesterday in abysmal, horrible no good rotten fashion. I just, normally we come on here and we say nice things about the Xfinity race, but yesterday, I don't think I can give it to them. I don't think I can give them. I can't give them nice things. They look like toddlers out there. It was crazy. Toddlers and little tight cars, and they were, goodness gracious, there were so many wrecks. There was just, I'll stop speaking. All right.
No, keep going. You take the floor. You can take this segment for me. I was really frustrated with this race. Like we always say on here, like I have high expectations for the Xfinity race. Like I expect it to be, the best 3 hours, 2.5 hours, whatever of my weekend when it comes to sports. I expect it to be Xfinity. And with this track, I think it's such a unknown still. Like we've had it for a couple races with this new configuration, but you just look at the feeling that people are still haven't figured it out, haven't mastered it like a Daytona, Talladega. But I just felt like a lot of it was just sitting around. I think I really did like once a longer run would happen, 20, 30 laps in, the field would get much more spread out. And I enjoyed that because then you could really see guys make moves. Allgaier was a star in this race until he wasn't. Ryan Sieg was a star in this race until he wasn't. They both had trouble late. There was a little bit of pit strategy, which was great, but it just felt like, until the field got spread out, it just felt like there was a lot of riding around. And then at the end, it was just such a letdown in terms of the last 3 or 4 laps. Chandler Smith, spoiler alert, you're getting my lights too bright, buddy, because you're sitting there in second place and you get 2 runs on Austin Hill and you just don't do anything with them. Like I hate this idea that sometimes happens in NASCAR. It's like, I can't make my move until it's the very last lap going into 3, coming out of 4, because like there's a solid chance you're not going to get there. It's going to be a caution. You're going to get shuffled out. He got 2 great runs and just came right to the bumper of the 21 and just sat on it. Just didn't do anything. And it's just frustrating because I keep watching Austin Hill come to these races and the seas just continue to part for him. And he just continues to find ways to win. Now, credit, he had to get his car up in that spot, of course, but I don't like this idea of everyone just sitting back and waiting. And more often than not, when that happens, whoever's the driver in first is just going to win, because you're not going to be able to come back 10 car lengths in, one set of corners. So that was frustrating. It just felt like nobody really wanted to challenge him at the end. It is, I don't know. I'm still not 100% bought in on new Atlanta. I really liked old Atlanta. I'm trying not to be the grandpa curmudgeon, get off my lawn when it comes to racing, but
no, do it.
It feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be. Like I get you want it to be this pack racing and, you still want to have like these 1.5 mile aspects of it. And it really doesn't feel like it does either good enough to warrant the money and time and effort that it took to regrade and reconfigure this track. Like that's a huge effort. And yet I still watch them like, okay, it's all right. It's okay. Like, I mean, it's no Kansas. It's no Talladega. It's no Daytona. I'd much rather watch it. So like you did all this work to be a lesser version of what you were previously. So I don't know. I just felt like, again, once they got spread out, I really enjoyed this race. But the problem with all of these races is that it just becomes a wreck fest. And, you're never going to get more than 1 or 2 of these 30 lap runs, right? Because someone's going to spin out, someone's going to lose their mess. And it's, and I get that. Again, my tolerance for that, I guess, is higher at Xfinity than it is at the Cup Series, because a lot of these are younger guys and inexperienced guys that are learning. But at the same time, it's like, okay, can we just stop wrecking? Like, does every race have to be, a late caution? Spoiler for the Cup race, right? Another green, white checker. Like, I don't know. I'm just not bought in on Atlanta. And I think, if Allgaier was able to like complete his comeback and win, like maybe that would have made it better. But I don't know. It wasn't that exciting for me, I guess, overall. Like it didn't deliver on the Atlanta hype that I had for it.
So for stars, I'm not going to accept any sort of Atlanta slander.
Oh, here we go.
I will say that, man, so here's the progression every Atlanta race weekend. I haven't gone to all of the winter events they've done since they reopened it. You get there and you watch the truck race, and you're like, damn, this would be awesome if you put better drivers in these cars and get a little bit more horsepower. And then you do that, and it's called the Xfinity Series. And then it turns out they actually, before the race, they remove their brains and they just leave them on the pit boxes and they just go crash into each other for 2 hours. And that's really awful. And then you actually get to the Cup Series and you actually then leave it feeling like, man, that was awesome, fantastic, and really, really enjoyable. That's just been the natural progression of New Atlanta. So when you remove the Truck Series, you don't even get that sort of appetizer of, man, this would be awesome if you gave them slightly more horsepower and better drivers. So you just start with the schmuck that is the Xfinity Series, and it lived up to it. That was lousy. I don't know what it is, because handling is starting to become a component. You look where they put Justin Allgaier on 2 tires, and that thing looked like it had an extra, 300 pounds of lead just hanging around. He just couldn't go anywhere. So handling obviously matters, but these cars are so choked up, both horsepower wise and aerodynamically, that it just generates this lousy pack racing. And the fact that they aren't very good at racing in packs in general just means you get such a lousy show. And they don't know when a time runs. All they can try to do is just strictly try to aero block, or not even aero block, but side draft. It's just an all-guy teases. You can't even do that correctly without blowing up your own tire and then causing a huge crash. Just low quality across the board. And yeah, what's just frustrating, I don't know what direction. I do agree with Art. I don't know what direction they want to go in, because now the track is getting worn enough where I kind of want them to try a few things. Like, give me a couple tests. Like, hey, what if we run big engine, take whatever space out of it, and let them get more horsepower, or run this current engine that you run at super speedway that's choked up, but give them the intermediate aero package. That way the runs will be bigger. But now you've got an issue because you don't have to go. There's just, yeah, they're going to continue to struggle with this on these lower speeds because they don't have enough horsepower in general. And they really can't do side by side that well, just because the momentum on the outer lanes just becomes overpowered. So just natural result. And what I don't understand is, and maybe it's just because everyone else in the series is dog water, why is Austin Hill so good at this? I don't know that he's a quality driver, no doubts about it, but I don't understand why he is just head above everyone else when it comes to this super speedway type racing. That that NBC had the gall. I mean, mind you, they did level it and say in the Xfinity Series that he is in the same atmosphere as Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale Earnhardt Jr., these other drivers. But yeah, I don't know whether he has something special or whether it's just this competition is just idiots who.
I do think the one thing I will give him credit for, because I admit I'm not a Austin Hill fan by any stretch, but I will give him credit on, is that he is at least willing to have the gumption to try to make moves and try to be aggressive throughout the race. And I do feel like there's a big segment of Xfinity Garage, at least, that is just either inexperienced, like you pointed out, or just don't feel confident enough, which may also be the experience, but they just are not willing to push as hard as they need to. Like I said, it just felt like there were times where a lot of guys were just riding around yesterday. And he, to his credit, he's on full attack mode when he's at these tracks. Now, these may be the only tracks he can get away with that, because there's maybe less finesse involved than at a true mile and a half or a short track or whatever. But for whatever reason, his style mixed with the competition he's working against, like it just lends him to be in the right spot. And then again, at the last Atlanta race, it was some crazy wreck in front of him. I think he was in like 5th or 6th place, and literally every car in front of him wrecked. And then he was on the front row for the last restart and like held on to win. And then with this one again, like I said, he was in first place and just had to run qualifying laps, basically like the last 4 laps, because like no one would bump him, challenge him, get beside him, side draft him, nothing. So like it's easier. I'm not gonna say it's easy, right? But it's easier when the competition is almost playing scared. It's almost like, prevent defense or something, right? Like they just don't want to make the same type of aggressive moves that he wants and is willing to make. And so like he can just kind of eat off that and get these wins. I do agree though that graphic was pretty disrespectful. Like we're really gonna do this. We're gonna put Hill. I mean, it's one of those things where it's technically true and technically right. It's the best kind of right, but like, come on now. Like we gotta have some context. I would love like a number of starts underneath those wins, because I guarantee you they're very skewed. I weighted against Austin.
If this stat keeps growing, I'm going to demand the Bushwhackers return. I want Kevin, not Kevin. Yeah, make Kevin Harvick come back and run every damn race. Let Bubba run a full season while also running a full Cup season. We need to make sure that he gets all of his stats scrubbed from the books. I don't want any Austin Hill. We need to whip him and break his spirit.
And after that demoralizing show of motorsports yesterday, we had the Cup race. Boy. Thankfully, I was busy and I got to watch at the start of stage 3 where things got interesting. Apparently Kyle Larson, I watched the replay of his wreck. Glad he's okay. Ouch. Ouch to Noah Gragson as well. That looked like a not nice hit at the angle he took. It's interesting when like a lot of the drivers go to save it and they try to catch the spin and like they hit the brakes to sort of get the car to stop doing its thing so they can whip it around. I think that hurt Noah more than it helped because he just got 90 degrees on the nose, and that was ouch. But the race ended in some Penske tag teaming. Joey Logano wins in Atlanta. Bubba Wallace gets Stenhouse to the joy of everybody on Twitter, and Tyler Reddick finished 6th. And that was that's the Atlanta race from my perspective. That's all I saw. Hope the rest of the parading was good that I kept hearing about. You really can't. You just something has to be done with this track. I want in the off season. They need to truly just test the regular package, the 1.5 mile package on this track, and just see how dangerous it actually is. I think with the banking, I think they might be safe, but you just can't. You can't pass. You can't gain a run to pass anybody just because there's no the track's not big enough to gain a run. Like the commentary is like, oh, they'll just drag the brake and do what? Go on pit road? There's not enough room to build a run to pass anyone. Like I feel like Ty Gibbs was out there all day long. He made one wrong move and he lost the race. Shame on him. But I just feel like with this package, you just can't pass at Atlanta. I mean, arguably you can't pass any super speedway, honestly, with the new car, but I just feel like this gets really exposed at this track. And I know, Peyton, you don't like us talking bad about Atlanta. I know you love Atlanta, but I miss.
You picked the wrong week, then.
You know, my favorite thing to do on NASCAR Heat 5 is load old Atlanta with the new car, and it cooks. You can hold it wide open the whole time. Nobody flips and dies. It's awesome. There's my speech.
Everyone loves old Atlanta until you have to sit there and watch 500 miles of it. And this is something that I am the biggest purist jerk face snob. And I don't know why I'm a NASCAR fan with that sort of background, but Listen, man, when you'd sit there in the grandstand, you'd watch a car build up a 10-second lead, and then every other car had
Cook.
a 3-second cushion,
Yes.
and you had that for 3 hours. Yeah, I was thinking like, man, this is pure.
Injected in my veins.
It was pure, and I was also just looking at my phone, playing word puzzles. Just there's not a whole lot to watch as you just watch someone drift away into the distance. That said, it felt good because it was pure, it was honest, it was real, it was what racing is. Now, what we saw today, that was easily the worst Cup Series race under this new configuration. No doubts about it, and it's strange. I would love for them to test like you were saying, the regular intermediate package, let the motors breathe. Here's the problem you're going to have. They're doing easily a $180 into the corners right now.
Yeah, the tires would be toast.
They could easily enter into these corners probably doing 204 or something like that in the draft, and then just a quick lift off if they even have to lift. So now we're talking like 190 on corner entry, 195. Listen, we saw Kyle Larson have an accident today that if the year was instead of 2024, it was, I don't know, 2004, the tone of this show is very different. He hit a ton. Like, geez, good gracious. And
He
then
knocked the wall down.
thank goodness that Chase Briscoe was on top of things and decided to drive towards the smoke. Man, for every one moment of brilliant, it seems like he has about 3 goofball moments, because Briscoe's really talented, but he really wants to make sure it's hidden. That light of talent's hidden under a bushel of head scratching. Yeah, it's just odd because this track overall, it's put up very good races. I thought the race in the winter was good. What was interesting though was it seemed as though you could make things happen on your own. And here's why, using case in point as example. Bubba Wallace last in the winter time was involved in the very early crash. His splitter was a bit messed up, but the car was still quite drivable. He was a couple laps down, so we had to fight to get back on the lead lap. And there was one phase where it was him and Ross Chastain having to fight for the lucky dog, and both of them managed to make their way through the field, and both were sort of jockeying it, and it with Bubba, when a caution came out, being the one ahead. I watched Bubba today, and once again, we're using Bubba as just a median driver. It's not necessarily saying, him or anyone else. He couldn't do anything with 50 laps to go. I would look up and I would see him with near the yellow car, which I believe in this instance was the 47 Stenhouse. He would go on the outside, manage to get like a car length, and then just sort of fall back again, and then back and forth, back and forth. So something, I don't know what has changed. I don't know whether the weather conditions were markedly different. It was actually a surprisingly warm day this winter, so you can't even say, oh, the track was super cold. I don't know whether the track's just aged more or what's happened, but it just seemed like you just couldn't make anything happen. But the thing is, that's sort of the same thing you get at all of the other drafting style tracks where you just sort of get hemmed in. This one being even more so, because if you just want to block, you don't even have to try to block the upper lane. You just need to fade up and you can get walled. You saw it happen to the 43 car about 500 million times. So the track really races more narrow as opposed to like a Daytona or Talladega where, hey, if you want to stop that third line, you better be ready to just join them and just make yourself a part of that third lane. So, yeah, I can't put my finger on it. I was hoping to hear more feedback, and unfortunately, I wasn't listening to all of the post race, but I would like to hear from the drivers what was different, because this race felt different from the other races that this is put on for the Cup. Because, yeah, this was quite a disappointment and not indicative of what this track is. And I just don't think the weather conditions were markedly different from what we saw in the winter. And I don't think the track's aged that much, so I don't know whether the drivers found something or I don't know what it was, but it was boring.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I think for me it was a snoozer until 50 laps to go, or whenever that last what was thought to be the last round of pit stops really happened. Right around when I think that was around the time Bubba and Ty had cycled to the front. Then it really got exciting. That's when they started going 3 wide. But the first 2/3 of the race, the first 80% of the race, it seemed like you just couldn't pass. And I hate not having a better, more expansive vocabulary to come up with some words other than like you just couldn't pass. But it was just impossible. It felt again like it was in previous years where you know, it used to be Daytona would get boring. There'd be one freight train running along the top. And now it's like, okay, we're going to give you 2 freight trains going side by side. That isn't much better to me. And it just felt like people were stuck in place. The 43, I think, was the first to go to the top and go 3 wide. And he was able to have some good speed and was making up a lot of spots doing that because no one else could go with him and no one could block it really. You might block it for a corner or two, but eventually he's just going to get by you. Ty was doing that as well, and he became a big threat. And then Bubba late in the race was able to start making ground doing that same technique. But I mean, if you weren't able to do that, you were pretty much stuck wherever you were. I mean, I don't know. To me, that's just not exciting to watch. Once again, like I just said earlier in the show, like not Todd, earlier, like I mentioned earlier in the show, it was a green white checkered again, which is frustrating to me that these races just continue to end the exact same way. Like I need to go back and look and see like how many of these races have ended under that circumstance, because it feels like it's every week at this point, like every single week. There's a caution with 15 to go. They're going to drag that sucker out and take it to a green white checker. But it was interesting. Ty was a big threat. I really thought he was going to find a way to win, and just made, to Peyton's point, 1 or 2 mistakes and just completely took him out of it. I mean, and the other story to me was that, the 2311 struggled for most of the race. Denny really struggled and had a really interesting strategy of riding around in the back, and it did not pay off for him. He rode around the back to not wreck, only to wreck coming to the checker flag. And then, some of these small accidents, there's a lot of 1-car accidents. It seemed like, John Hunter, Josh Berry, what was he doing? And Noah Gregson, like these guys are just single car accidents. And I don't know, it seemed like you'd rack them again, and then they would just kind of sit there, and maybe the leader would bounce back and forth. But other than him, it just felt like, again, these were freight trains. And, I hate coming on here and being like super negative and just bad mouthing, but like, I just want better racing. And I agree with Jared. Like, I think if they just at least tried it, I don't know, add some kind of restrictor plate to the 1.5 mile package or something and just see what you can do. Like, give it a shot. I feel like it's worth trying because this race gives you great pictures of cars that are close up and running side by side, and it looks great on TV. But if you watch it for a whole broadcast, you're like, okay, nothing's happening. And like, to me, that's just not exciting to watch.
I feel like to the point as well, like NBC announced before Daytona that Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega were going to be side by side, green flag, no commercials, awesomeness. And I feel like even the racing product today, they still took full screen commercials. Like, what's the point of us going side by side if you're not doing nothing exciting? And to that point, I feel like if NASCAR is going to manufacture all these restarts and do all these green white checkers and make everything, if NASCAR is going from like skill to like entertainment based skill, then it needs to be more entertaining for me. And how to make it more entertaining is if I see cars get past, if I see movement on the track, if there's a car that allows them to dip and dodge and do things. And we come on here, we've the Gen 7 is probably going to be an imprint of a boot somewhere. But it's just, I want more. If you're going to force me to like this version of NASCAR, then I want to be entertained for the 3 hours you want me to watch the television broadcast and not watch football. So Thank goodness the Cup race wasn't on Saturday. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got watched. OHIO. Moving to 23-11. Yes, Peyton, I said that. Congratulations. Oh, while you're here, in case you're new to the show, Peyton's Vols destroyed Arthur's lowly NC State Wolfpack to the pleasure of Peyton, Twitter, and Bubba Wallace. Arthur, your thoughts before we move to 23-11 corner.
See, this is gotcha journalism at its worst right here. I tell you. I mean, as a longtime fan and graduate of NC State, I have learned to expect nothing and never be disappointed. So it's fine. I don't care. Did I watch? No. Would I have shit talked the hell out of Peyton if we had won? Yes. But do I care that we lost? No, not really. It's fine.
What kind of cretin are you? Did you notice in the chat? In the chat, I was extremely kind. I did not like, oh, look, everyone laugh at Art. I was just posting like, man, this is awesome, man. We're playing good football. I didn't point out things. And then to know that you, a snake, if your little community college decided to win, and it hurts to say because my father was a alum of that fine institution.
Wow, your own daddy, and you gonna disrespect like that?
I'm sorry, I wasn't going to disrespect it until
he should have sent you there. You would have learned some manners.
I toured that place and I said, and University of Tennessee at the time was not a pretty campus either. But anywho, yeah, we'll see what it looks like when we get into SEC play. That said, with the SEC having expanded, I don't even know when our next SEC game is. But yeah, good game all around. Y'all made it easy. Y'all might want to stick to some of them FCS schools going forward. See if you can't beat up on them.
Listen, there's nothing you can say to me about NC State athletics that would hurt me worse than the last 15 years of following NC State athletics. So it's fine. I don't care.
That's why I'm not going in that hard.
It could always be worse. You could pay $1.4 million like Notre Dame did and lose.
Yeah. That's fine. Get us back on track, please.
We're going back on track. 23-11 corner.
To be in charge here.
I am. So Tyler brings back the Air Jordan scheme that he won Talladega with, brought it to Atlanta. He finished P6. Bubba caught up in the aforementioned Ricky Stenhouse foolishness. Got wrecked in the last lap, ruined a top 10 day for Bubba. Bouncing back after his pit road speeding penalty, and he locked in for 29th. Tyler now sits P4 in the playoff standings, 33 points to the good of the cut line. After today's race results, Brad Harrison, Martin Truex Jr., and Chase Briscoe find themselves below the cut line. On the bubble, Ty has a 2-point advantage over Brad Keselowski going into Watkins Glen. I mean, the race was trash. The end result was trash. I feel like if you're a 23-11 fan, all you can do at this point is just throw up your hands and be like, here we go again. I've sent out a tweet. New race week, same reaction meme of the dad just going off, yelling expletives. Like, what are you doing? Because I feel like I don't know what kind of magnet that is on Bubba's car, but he's always consistently attracted to the most boneheaded numbskull moves at the end of a race or towards the end of the race that ruins a good finish for him. So 9 weeks left, 25 days till Baby Wallace comes, and where Bubba probably won't care anymore. I don't blame him when the bundle of joy arrives, but you can't make this shit up. You can't make it up.
Dude, I mean, it's just it's so frustrating. I was kind of hoping, because it seemed like his car was starting to come to life late in the race, so that was promising. And someone in the chat was like, watch them go ahead and win this race now. And I remember thinking, all right, don't say that. But I just feel like, okay, they're making a run, like they're moving up, like they're making great progress. They're back up in the top 10-ish range, like they're in the hunt. I've ranted on here so many times, like you got to be in the hunt, and like they're actually in the hunt. And I remember thinking, okay, well, it's green, white, checker. They're like on the 5th row. Like, okay, they're not, the top 8 cars aren't going to crash. So, like, winning it probably isn't going to happen, but at least we'll get a top 10, And then he was like, I think 6 maybe when he got wrecked. And I remember thinking as they're going into
It's real close.
Going into 3, I remember thinking, oh, my exact thought, I swear to God, was, oh, well, at least we'll get a top 10 out of this. Well, maybe we'll get a top 5. At least we get a top 10 on this. And then, I mean, the usual suspects, the 1, the 41, just, I don't even understand, like, how you do so well so long, and then just your mind goes blank at the end.
I mean, I do feel bad for Chastain though. Like he was really, really tight trying to push Suarez to another when he almost wrecked like 3 times before he
I
lost
mean, he
it.
probably pushed him too hard, honestly, which is probably what got him to be in that situation. Like he probably just pushed too deep into the corner, and then like you're carrying too much speed because you're just trying to push. You're not trying to make the corner. But yeah, for Tyler, I mean, this was a survival day. I mean, they were really bad too. They at least got a decent finish out of it, but they were really, really bad as well. But luckily, where he finished ahead of a lot of the people around him in the playoff bubble. And he got some luck, right? Larson was out, Briscoe went out, Truex went out. So like he had some luck as well, which helped him. So, I think his playoff hunt is still very much alive. Like he's in a very good spot considering halfway through this race. I mean, he was below the cut line, and it wasn't 2 or 3 points. Like he was a significant amount of points below the cut line. So just to come out ahead, I think, is a win for him. And we normally don't include the 11 in the 23-11 corner, but I have to this week because my God, they just were absolutely trash this week. I don't understand. Like, such an important race, right? Start of the playoffs, a track you can run well at, and they just absolutely laid an egg, like a total egg. You're 2 seconds off in qualifying, and then just terrible. Like I refuse to believe that they were sitting in the back worried about a wreck. I think they were just so slow. They were trying to save face with the sponsors listening on the radio because they were really, really bad all day. And like I mentioned earlier, you do all this work to save yourself from being in a wreck, just a wreck coming to the end. That's what you get. That's the racing god's karma saying you didn't put forth a solid effort. You didn't put forth a max effort. So you're going to get what you get, and you're going to wreck, and you're going to have a teared up race car. So that was really frustrating. I'm sitting there looking at the playoffs, and just real quick before I let Payne go, I'm looking at Denny. Denny has not won since April 28th. It is September. It's about 17 races or so ago since he last won. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a first round exit by any stretch. I don't think that's the case, but that's a long time to go without wins for that car. And considering how hot they were to start the year, right? Like he won the Clash, and I think he got I think he's got 3 wins, right? At this point. But they were really hot. Yeah, they were really hot to start the year. I'm just saying, like, they'll probably win Bristol and be fine, and like all of this will be a mute conversation. But as we sit today on September 8th, like they're not looking too hot. Like they got to turn that shit around quick because that was an embarrassing effort for a team that's supposed to be in the playoffs. Like I'll give Booty credit, like they kept fighting at least, and we're in position to get a good finish out of it. But for you to ride around the back until 10 laps to go, like. That's not good enough, especially when you're a playoff driver.
That's another thing that pisses me off about this car. The old car, you could ride around in the back. All right, go time, 30 laps to go and make your way to the front. But in this one, it's like if you wait that late to start making moves, you get up to like 16th, and that's the end of your day.
No shot.
Oh yeah, with this car, you make positions up by other people fumbling. Like history teaches us. What was it, Talladega last year? Bubba, tried to make stuff happen, and then he just kept getting shuffled back. Yeah, with this new car, which I love because this car is so pretty, so
It
beautiful.
is so pretty.
And it races so well because it looks like a GT car, which is a huge problem. But anywho, we're talking what 2311 corner. Who cares? Sorry, I'm getting closer every day to Arthur's outlook. Except I'm going to just keep watching and then being miserable, which once again that shows my own character flaws. I mean, you can't be mad at this. It's a plate track. It was messy. I think Bubba, yeah, I was hoping that he could have held a top 10 finish. That deal at the end with Ross Chastain, watching from as impartial of a viewpoint as I can muster, Bubba was getting tight towards him, and that car was super high on the wall, and then he made contact with the one car before Stenhouse got there, and then Stenhouse sealed the deal. So he still got pile drove. It was just a late race type deal because Chastain was going quite a bit slower. Bubba got tight, contacted him, and then Bubba got reamed, and then just a big calamity. But should have had a top 10 finish there. What, top 10 also for the 45, which is what you're hoping for in a place like this, just minimize damage. This whole round, it is all about just avoiding huge issues. Essentially, if the 5 didn't have the most points going in, they would be in full-on panic mode. I mean, they can go win at Watkins Glen, and you can go win at Bristol, but still not in a place you want to be. So, yeah, this is what I guess NASCAR's hoping for by loading up these playoffs with just random wonky tracks going into this. I totally agree. I don't know what Denny Hamlin's strategy was for a guy who is very good at plate racing or super speedway racing. You'd figure that as a student of the game, he would realize what you can and can't do anymore. So just to ride around in the back, yeah, that just doesn't really, unless you're going to really push hard in the last stage and make your way forward, you're just not going to get there unless you can maintain track position. So, yeah, overall, yeah, it's a super speedway weekend. It's random. On to Watkins Glen. I hope that Bubba has the same push and drive that he did last year at Watkins Glen, where I think he put up one of his most inspired, or at least the start of him turning a big corner in terms of road racing, where he was in the top 10 all day, and then just bad timing on a pit stop sequence put him in 12th, where he still went on to finish and maintain everything. So it'll be interesting to see. It's got to be tough to have the same motivation going into some of these tracks that you may not necessarily love. I don't know how much he loves going road course racing, but given it's a huge part of his job, he has to put a whole lot more effort into it now. It's got to be interesting to see where that motivation is now with everything that's going on. Like I said, he's a professional, so I imagine he'll still give top-notch effort, but it'll be nice if we can get a result like he did last year. And once again, the 45 should be fine. Just needs another top 10 day. And then, frankly, you could probably just crash out or just do whatever he wants to at Bristol. 45 doesn't run particularly well there. So, yeah, that's your 45, 23-11 corner. This whole weekend just sapped the life out of me, man. Like, I don't know. That Atlanta race is so boring.
I think he's going to bring the fire. I think he's going to bring the noise. For those of you who may have forgotten, Juan Pablo Montoya will be piloting the 50 Mobile 1 Camry with Bubba and Tyler this weekend up at Watkins Glen. Watkins Glen is my favorite road course because I laid down the fastest times ever in the history of ever when I race on any video game. Ask about me. It's like it's one of the OGs. Like there was Searsport and there was Watkins Glen, and Watkins Glen just cooks. I think I enjoy Watkins Glen the most for turn 1 shenanigans, but also it doesn't take a minute and 30 seconds to complete the lap and lull me to sleep like some of the other places that we go to. So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Watkins Glen. The only bad thing about Watkins Glen is that Hendrick has been undefeated there for like the last 7 years. So somebody's got to get like shoved into the sand trap and tire barriers to make sure that it doesn't happen again Sunday. Personally. Speaking of Senor Montoya, do y'all think Eagles going to cook in the next gen car? Is he going to do better than Kamui, or what we looking like? What we looking at?
I mean, do I think he'll cook? Probably not. Do I think he'll be a back marker? No. I mean, my realistic expectation would honestly be somewhere in the like 10 to 17 range. You know, I think if you get a top 10, I think that'd be amazing, right? Like coming in cold with a car you've never driven against the guys that drive it every week. That would be, I think a top 10 would be amazing, but I think like a 15th is more realistic. I mean, if this was Juan Pablo Montoya coming in at like mid 2000s, right, where there are only like 2 or 3 good road course guys on the roster week to week, then yeah, I'd be like, okay, maybe he'll have more success because he's so talented. Like the fact that I'm thinking he's going to do that well is just a testament to how high regard I have for him as a talent. Like he was legit. You could make the argument as greatest driver ever, right? Most talented driver ever. But this car is very hard to drive, and there's this floor and ceiling for road course performance in the cup level have both risen in the last 10, 12 years. So 10 to 15, I think, is realistic.
I was about to say how badly I think he's going to do. Because I didn't realize he had been racing in the past decade. I mean, outside of IndyCar, obviously. But I did look. He's actually done some.
Yeah, he's been in the IMSA, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been doing a little bit of IMSA, a little bit of European Le Mans Series LMP2. This is definitely not me reading off Wikipedia just to make sure. So the fact that he's not completely rusty gives me some sort of hope. This is probably easily the heaviest car he's been in since the last time he was in the Cup Series. So we're talking, 2014 apparently. This is the last time he sort of wielded one of these. I think if he's in the top... See, here's the thing. You say something outlandish about a great driver, about Juan Pablo Montoya, you're going to look like a jackass when eventually he does something. I think realistically, we're talking about a 48-year-old driver who hasn't been in a Cup Series car. Mind you, it's similar to what he's racing here not too long ago. I think a top 20 would be a great day for him. And I know that sounds like a slight, but we're talking about a 48-year-old man who's not racing the Cup Series since the Obama administration, and
say it's going to be 25th. Go ahead, say it.
Oh, I could see him 25th.
Say it. No, put your name on it.
Wait, hold on. I said top 20 be a good day. Why did you have to make it specifically 25th?
Go ahead. I want you to say on record, on audio record, that you think.
Not going that deep. No, he's going to finish 18th. There you go.
I think would that be the strongest finish of the 50/the 67, since they've run the extra third car sometimes.
Well, as long as he stays away from Stenhouse, because he little.
Well, don't forget that Barry, absolutely, him and Barry were just trading shots on old Kobayashi. Like they had some sort of problem. Yeah, they had some sort of problem.
They jumped him and Corey LaJoy.
Listen, I mean, I think that whole trio, they're a little. I want to know. I want to know where they were on certain days in history. That's all I'm gonna say. I like how I talked him up, and then Peyton basically
just knocked him down. Just got the
wait,
mallet and just whop.
Exactly, like Peyton just badmouthed him for 3 minutes, but then he puts him 2 spots behind where I said he'd finish, basically.
I don't know. Like, you said like, oh, could I see him in the top 10? You said, yeah.
I
And then my
said a
brain
10
just,
would be an amazing finish, but I thought 15th. I said 10 to 17th is where I think he'd run. I think
well, I'd include the
15th would
top
be a
10,
good
and my brain just shut off, and I said, that's ridiculous. 18th because I'm a coward. I'm not willing to say that he's actually going to finish 26th. I wouldn't actually say that, but he's 48 years old. He's going to finish 18th.
All right. Juan Pablo, if you listen to this, Payne don't believe in you. Show the
I
haters.
don't.
Yeah, he's
make
gonna
sure-
business.
Y'all make sure you at him after this race.
No,
Mhm.
no. Hold on.
PTH_ball.
Jeez.
Get him.
Listen, my whole
Getting his mentions.
modus operandi, unlike you knuckleheads, is I keep a low profile online because
Do you?
I like
Not
to
anymore.
enjoy my time online, not have people angry at me. If I want people
Mhm.
angry at me, I'll just go to work, call some customers, let them.
Yeah, we're an international podcast, sir. So your days of solace and peace are over.
I'm gonna clip this specific audio and I'm gonna tag him in it so that way people know who to direct their anger to in 7 days.
As long as his fans aren't as mean and angry as the fans from a certain South American country who got so vile that they had to bench their driver because he was also okay. Did y'all follow the IndyCar
Give
craziness?
the context for the people.
Yeah, I'm going to give the context. So essentially, the Argentinian fans of one of the IndyCar drivers.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Got so out of hand that essentially they had to bench the Argentinian driver, not only because his fan base was being so toxic to another competitor. The Argentinian driver was also in the comments gassing up his angry fans who were hurling the most toxic comments ever. So, anywho, hopefully the Colombian fans are much more gracious and understanding that this comes out of a place of love and concern, out of his relative time away from the sport may have decreased my expectations of where Juan Pablo Montoya will do. It's not because I don't think he's an amazing driver. I just think a decade's a long time to be out of the sport, especially when everyone in the sport's gotten a lot better.
So what's his
I'm
ad
gonna
again?
go ahead and I'm gonna keep us moving before we get tomatoes thrown at us. Open mic. So apparently y'all heard we had some metal to give away. Shout out to everybody who followed. Welcome to all of our new listeners. We definitely graciously appreciate you. Welcome. Stay a while. Kick it with us. We got some things popping and jumping. And it looks like we got a shipping laden to pay, Art, because I think somebody won that prize pack. So before we announce the winner, I just want to run back one more time what this person is getting ready to enter into their household.
I got it. Let me do it. I got it because this is my baby. Let me take it. So just for context, so people know, I make sure everyone understands. So there's one prize, right? In which you get all the stuff that was on the first tweet that kind of blew up a little bit. So you'll get a shirt from us. You get 3 Bubba Wallace diecasts. 2 of them are autographed. You get autographed K&W 8x10 of Bubba. 2 crew hats, a crew shirt from his RPM days, and a 2015 Kentucky driver's side door from that car that he raced. So that is one prize that someone will win. So I was gonna do this for 1,500, and then we were like, well, y'all are into this. Screw it, let's just put it up. So we ended up hitting 1,500 real quick. So I have 2 winners, and the second winner will get the piece from the 2023. I type fast sometimes, guys. Y'all out there, I see y'all out there correcting me.
He doesn't use the edit button.
2023 Bristol Dirt fender. So it's really cool piece because you can go and see all the pictures of it because of that scheme is pretty unique. It's a 1 of 1, obviously. I'm pretty sure it still has dirt on it from Bristol, which is pretty cool. So there are 2 winners that have been picked. So first place gets the whole prize pack with that, and the second place gets the Bristol fender. So I'm gonna get a drum roll.
Oh, we need Carl for the
I
for the
was gonna
soundboard.
say, no, see, I was just hoping you'd leave it silent. I was gonna edit one in, but
Oh
now, like,
wow,
I'm just
that's
gonna
awkward.
edit.
Just
Now I'm
delete
just gonna
the
edit one in
yeah.
over all of this.
Yeah.
So, first place. So for the record, also for context, in case anyone didn't know, I have a thing that pulls out all of our followers, and so then just random number generator. But these people are think I'm going to be pretty happy based off their ads. So first place goes to at Jennifer23xi. Jennifer is a huge 2311 fan based off of her profile. So I'm very happy that she won. So Jennifer, if you are listening to this, check your DMs. I'm gonna DM you before this episode drops,
in the DM,
so we can get that sent to you. And then so second place for the Bristol Dirt Fender goes to an at fan 23xi. I don't know your name, sir or ma'am, but you also need to check your DMs. And I have a message from me saying, hey, drop the Addy. We'll put it in the mail for you. So congratulations to both of them. I'm super excited to get this out to the mail to you guys. I'm very thankful to everyone who has followed, commented, reshared, quote tweeted, said how excited they were for this stuff. Like, it means the world to us on the show. It means the world to me. Like, it is a labor of love, but I think that might be my biggest love language, I guess, when it comes to show. I just like giving stuff to people. And, we've done race tickets and, shirts and other small things, but this was definitely our biggest undertaking in terms of a giveaway. And, you guys showed so much love, especially last week. So very, very grateful to everyone who's following. I hope if you're new to the show, you'll stick around with us because we want to bring you more cool stuff. We got the Bob interview up, we've got some other interviews up. We got some special guests that we're working on for later on in the season. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, we love what we do. And I guess we always talk about, right? Like, it is such a place of gratitude to people that listen to us. And, I think we don't take ourselves too seriously. I feel like our conversations are just the same if we were sitting around the couch watching on TV or in the car or the barbershop or wherever. And we're glad that you guys are here and part of it with us. So I'm very thankful to everyone. The race to 1K and the race to 1.5K is officially completed. The checkered flag has been out. We've crossed the line. And I don't know what we'll do for the next one. I don't know if we're going to do a giveaway, but maybe I can dig in the closet and find some. For the Fender, I had to dig in the closet. Jared hit me up and was like, yo, we got to do something else. And I was like, I can look. I can see what I can find for you. So, yeah, you never know what's in my closet, man. They got some cool stuff in it.
We like to give stuff away just because it's with a sport like this. I tell everybody, you have to go in person. You can't, you can't watch it on TV. I mean, you can, because obviously we all do unless we're at the track, but you have to go experience it at the track. So, to definitely just to echo Art, shout out to y'all. Shout out to the listeners. Like, because of all the listeners we had, we added people to the podcast. We added Peyton, we added Jer. So on behalf of the three of us, Carl, Kiana, Bonte, everybody who's been on, all of the guest appearances we've had to date, we appreciate everybody for being a part of this journey. We've been here for a year, and look what we just did. Imagine what we can do with more time. Yeah. Also, I'm just going to say it for the record, on the record, please give Carl his your gratitude and thanks and well wishes. If you've gotten this far in the episode, you heard the brand new introduction that he cooked up. Wink, wink. So share your thoughts and opinions on that. We cooked again. Yeah. Peyton, anything you want to add? Questions, comments, concerns?
Is this the part where I would like to thank my Patreon supporters, or do I drop the link for it? I just feel
If
like
you got
Oh,
them.
wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Everything I was listening to, I was like, man, he just needs to naturally transition to also, if you'd like to contribute to our Patreon. No.
We don't have a Patreon. Spotify asks us if we want to open up for, if we wanted to do something like that. Art and I have thrown the idea around, but I feel like our show's good enough. We don't need to paywall anything.
No,
You know, I will say if they're so one of the ideas that we played around. So I mean, we can be off the record now, even though we're still recording. But one of the things we played around with was the idea of having an uncensored episode.
Yeah, we did
because we were doing work, censoring, and we want to make sure this is something you can listen to in the car with your kids for the most part. We try to give you the earmuffs warning, at least I do. And we played around with that idea, and I don't know, maybe we'll bring that idea back up, and just have it behind like a buck or something. And if you guys are interested in that, let us know. Shoot us a DM or hit us up on the tweet if you want an after hours VLV where it's not as
PC
sponsor friendly,
PG.
I guess you could say. Yeah. We might want to try that. If the people want it.
The people want it.
Cursing's overrated. I'm not very good at it. I'll leave it to.
Can't tell. What were you on last week?
Thing got so quiet. That's the quietest of the all episode.
So lucky that I don't have a camera for this one, so you can see my shocked reactions, or when I got absolutely just bullied into saying that Juan Pablo is going to finish 26th.
They got caught in 4K.
Really did.
And then it'll be digital. We got it on the tapes.
But no, in terms of these contests, it's just fantastic to see how much support that you all are getting. I still refer to Victory Lane Vibes as you all because you all put in a ton of work to grow this and develop a great product and get some fantastic people on the show. I really was going to say me, but no, getting folks like Antron Brown on the show, just absolutely fantastic. Getting Bob Pockris, getting a chance to do fantastic things. And what's nice about it is it's always sort of felt like these are the sort of discussions that you'd have with your buddies, either sitting on the couch or sitting on the back deck as you smoke up some ribs while watching the race. Just a fantastic thing. And it's nice to see the community rally around and get excited for it. And yeah, I can't wait to see what you all do next, and also just how deep into Art's closet of stuff he can give away. I mean, I hear he's got there's so much stuff he might have collected. I mean, the dude's got a shopping addiction when it comes to diecast. He could probably just give away a diecast per day and he wouldn't notice anything.
Hey, easy now, big fella.
I was going to take him. He's like, hold on, I get too much.
I'm just saying, 12 days of giving around Christmas time could be a great thing for Art to do.
All I know is there's what makes me happy when Art takes over a pet project for a giveaway, that he has a number on speed dial that changes lives instantaneously. Life-changing phone number. I'll leave it at that. And with that, it's been another episode of Victory Lane Vibes, y'all. See y'all post Watkins Glen. Hopefully nothing crazy happens so we can be in a great mood and talk about the road coast car that they make go around on ovals. So next week should cook. But until then, congratulations once again to our winners. And we'll formulate the next time we're going to get something. I feel like 2000 is too soon. Maybe 2,500. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll figure something out. We got to throw some coffee at y'all here shortly. So, but we'll get back to you on that. Play my music.